safe streets, vibrant neighborhoods, successful business and commerce. These are things that make a healthy community. We are a diverse community, rural, suburban, urban, a multitude of languages and ethnicities, ages and experiences. We are a collaborative community. Public-private partnerships make us a model community that others want to follow. It is what makes us unique. It is what makes us strong. The employees of Kent County reflect our diversity and seek to serve our communities.
People in this county, in this area, we wrap our arms around each other. We come together to collaborate, to solve problems. We're all working for the good of the whole. And I think that's wonderful. And you can see it. You can see it as you drive around Kent County.
Our impact starts the day a baby is born and a birth certificate is issued, to protecting children from deadly diseases through vaccination, to the public safety and justice provided by law enforcement and the courts, to offering veterans services and caring for the elderly. Every day we work to keep our communities robust.
I think if you are somebody who's interested in serving your community, in building a strong knowledge base and a good group of people to work with, then the county is one of your best employment opportunities out there. It's been completely rewarding in every way I could possibly explain for 26 years, and I feel like I grow every single day still today.
Leading these dedicated employees, our 19-member Board of Commissioners and our County Administrator Controller, along with our elected officials and appointed department directors, placing emphasis on civic involvement, quality housing, vibrant neighborhoods, and strong, solid infrastructure to allow businesses to thrive. Professional, dedicated, collaborative, and innovative.
Behind the scenes, collaboration between foundations, charitable organizations, nonprofits, for-profit businesses, public sector demonstrated through the county, the city of Grand Rapids, the townships, all the cities and the villages in our area. If we don't come together, then we will not have the strength that we have today, and I only hope to build upon that.
Our aim is to make our communities the best they can be. We are involved in exciting development projects, sustainable recycling programs, and creative progressive prevention programming. We partner with elected officials, impacting policy ideas that become great achievements. We seek opportunities to reach out into the community and offer our services to help our residents make Kent County thrive.
Our relationship is solid, both from a staff standpoint at the county level as well as the Board of Commissioners. And they understand what we do and the benefits that we can do for the community, and vice versa. We couldn't do what we do without the help of Kent County.
While most of us are busy running our lives, Kent County's elected officials, administrator controller, and over 1,600 employees are serving the communities where we live our lives, so we can all have a place we are proud to call home. Kent County, its life well run.
I think you're doing a wonderful job, Dan.
Good morning. Welcome to the Finance Fiscal Resources. Careful what you say. February 16th, there was a work session this morning on the dispatch with Wyoming, previous to this meeting. So we'll begin with public comment. Anyone care to speak? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Let's move on to the consent agenda. Need a motion to approve items A through E.
So moved. Support.
Questions? Anyone care to remove anything from the consent agenda? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. So item 3, Kent Services Network Agreement. Darrell, please.
This is a request to recommend to the board to approve a 2-year agreement with the Kent School Services Network for Prevention Initiative Services. In 2002, the Board of Commissioners adopted a prevention subcommittee report that called for increased county funds for prevention services in the community. In 2006, the Kent School Services Network launched with 8 schools on a mission to realign health and human services to support student achievement. Today, the KSSN operates in 30 schools within 8 school districts. throughout the county, serving over 8,000 students from pre-K through 12th grade. Students where case SSN operates has seen a reduction in chronic absenteeism. In 2008, the state of Michigan reduced its funding for early impact by $400,000 in direct program support and another $400,000 through eligibility service definitions. As a result, the Grand Rapids Community Foundation, Network 180, Heart of West Michigan United Way, and Kent County moved its respective funding for early impact to the Kent School Services Network as our secondary prevention service. At the time, Kent ISD served as the fiduciary, and the contract for KSN services was between the county and the Kent ISD. 2 years ago, the KSSN became its own 501c3 nonprofit organization with its own board of directors. Funding for the KSSN comes from a variety of sources, including but not limited to school districts, Network 180, Kent ISD, Grand Rapids Community Foundation, United Way, private donors, and Kent County. Assistant Corporate Counsel has prepared and approved the agreement for signature.
Okay, thank you. Need a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support?
Support.
Questions? Your enthusiasm's kind of getting away from me. Matt?
In the agreement, a couple questions, section 3 and 5. One question, I'm wondering where section 4 went, if that's just, we deleted something and it's gone. Second question is really the nature of the term. So the term starts in the past. Have we been fulfilling the payment section for a month and a half here without this agreement?
No.
Okay. Would we make up those payments?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, what happened to the other section is just misnumbering, I don't think.
Okay.
Actually, Matt, I can probably answer that question. They wonder whether we read any of this stuff.
It's a test.
And so they do that on purpose, just to see if anybody catches it, so thank you. Roger?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hey, Matthew, is this the continuation of the program? When I was chair many years ago, we went to an elementary school, and it was like a one-stop shop.
Yeah, it's one-stop shop there. So in the Kent School Services Network building, you'll see a community school coordinator. You'll see DHS personnel, Pathways to Potential, pathway coaches, and in the legislative agenda that LHR committee is looking at. We don't have that in every school yet because of the state's hasn't allocated funds, so about 50% of the schools you'll see that. You also see a mental health clinician in every single school, at least one, that's funded through part of this money. It's funded through Medicaid dollars. It's funded through private insurance, and kids are able to get service and families right on site there if a kid's having a behavioral health issue. So that's all there. And then any of the services that our community provides through churches, community groups, businesses, they're coordinated through the community school coordinator so that the principal's focusing on academic achievement and the community school coordinator is focusing on those components to help the family be stable and successful.
I remember this kind of being a trailblazer for this type of setup. Has it been copied elsewhere in the state?
Yeah, we copied obviously from other places and enhanced, and then now other places in the state are looking at us. The governor adopted this model. He calls it Pathways to Potential, and that is totally modeled after the work here. And we've had lots of communities come through since that time from Southeast Michigan, Ludington, Alpena area to see what we're doing. So.
Thank you. Bill?
Thank you, Matt. Over the years, I think it kind of got initiated when I was back in the legislature, and there was a real concern about we should help the schools to concentrate on academics and not on total health care. So I've kept an eye on it. I have my concerns, but I'll support this to go along. But I hope we will keep an eye on that. We're not just overloading on the education community.
I think we're trying to do exactly what you're concerned about, Commissioner, in that we're trying to take away those health and human service needs from teachers in the school by providing these services right in the community. So if a teacher identifies a challenge that's non-academic related, they pass it on to this team that's an expert in that area to work with the family so they can really focus on the education of the students. And the principal's the same way, that they can focus on coaching their teachers to become better teachers rather than responding to health and human services needs.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? David?
So if I'm reading this correctly, we started funding KSSN in 2008, and is this basically a continuation? I mean, it's the last 2-year agreement ended, and so this is the next 2-year agreement?
Correct, and the difference is that the funding has always gone through the ISD.
Right. This
And the last time we came, we had a series of contracts that came, and because the fiduciary of the funding is different, we're requesting the separate contract so that it has its own board of directors now, it's matured, it's gotten good outcomes and results, and so this is a accountability to the organization.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Just a comment. When we first started this back in, well, it says 2002, I wasn't so sure that that's something we should be doing. I had my doubts, but we did it, and now I've personally come 180 degrees saying that, you know, this is probably one of the, I mean, this is a discretionary thing. This is not within our purview of what county government probably should be doing, but on the other hand, I'd say that it's probably the best thing that we do that's discretionary. But Matt, could you make a guess for me and how much money we've been able to parlay, if you will, our money with outside money?
So just in Kent School Services Network, last year we brought down $1.9 million of direct services for children and families through Medicaid and commercial insurance. And that's all leveraged money. And it was all money that was used in community, in the schools, because teachers identified behavioral health concerns. They referred the children to the community school coordinator, who then worked with our mental health clinicians to provide services right there on site. And what we're seeing is that these children are attending school more often, they're healthier, and so that's just this program. There's other programs that we fund that do similar things through these discretionary general funds. So that's an example of how this is leveraging other dollars in the community to serve kids and families in better, more effective ways.
Thank you. Anyone else? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. We'll go to item 4. Darrell, please.
This is a request to recommend to the board to approve the Housing and Community Development Consolidated Plan for July 1, 2016 through June 30th, 2021. The county has qualified as an urban county, which makes it eligible to receive funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Kent County, along with the cities of Grand Rapids and Wyoming, received an Economic Vitality Incentive Grant from the state of Michigan to hire a consultant in order to review the potential merging of the 3 community development departments. The consultant's report suggested that this will reduce the amount of federal funds the region could receive. One suggestion from the report was the creation of a regional consolidated plan to benefit the region. The 5-year consolidated plan consists of a housing and homelessness needs assessment, market analysis, and related goals and objectives, and is a prerequisite for obtaining community development block grant, home investment partnership, and emergency solutions grants from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Grand Rapids, as well as Wyoming, have presented the consolidated plan to their respective city commissions in January and were approved. The annual action plan that describes the specific funding plan will be presented for approval in May.
Okay. We need a motion to approve this resolution.
So moved.
Support?
Support.
Support, thank you. Questions?
Well, quick comment. Unfortunately, when we say HUD, I say potential conflict. Because this is a consolidated plan with the City of Grand Rapids, and Disability Advocates continues to receive its CDBG allocation from the City of Grand Rapids, I will abstain because I don't want to tell Grand Rapids what to do with this plan so as to lose more money from HUD based on their inability to be rational about conflicts of interest. And the word rational is polite.
Oh.
That being said, the question to Daryl is, when do we have, or do we have the conversation, since the person whose job it is to implement this plan is currently being filled interimly by Matthew Van Zenton, would we have a conversation about, like, what's the kind of person you're going to be looking for to make this plan real? Because that's part of your job, is to hire that person to make this real, correct?
We are in the process of working with, Matthew, of course, and looking at the needs and operations of the department, and then we'll be working with HR to develop a profile and a position description and the recruitment process.
And I definitely don't want us to get into anywhere near the weeds on that process. However, it's, how the Coalition End Homelessness, their report talked about how much we focus on following HUD rules, which is to say we have to follow HUD rules, but because we have so much resources that aren't controlled by HUD, we can be a lot more creative in some of this stuff. So how do we make sure that if it's the will of the board to tell you we'd like somebody more creative as opposed to somebody who's an expert in following HUD's rules
Well,
only. And so would we say that to you ever, or can we? Or
I think
Just
you
did.
you
but I
said
mean,
it to me.
officially, listening to me, I know my rank at this table.
I think we have to, whenever
An
we,
emotion from the majority would be way more powerful.
when we look at any job opening, not just this one, we try to reassess the position, reassess our needs, because what happened 10 years ago when we hired a position may not necessarily reflect the current needs of the department. So that's part of the normal process of reviewing this type of thing. It may be that as part of the process, we interview external stakeholders.
Right.
To look at, and not just take a myopic view of the position, because there is a significant amount of interaction between the Housing and Community Development Department to any variety of stakeholders throughout the county, as well as
Right, and quickly, just so it's clear, this is not at all intended at any kind of comment about what Linda Likely did or didn't for the county, because she was extremely helpful with all of my personal and professional conflict issues, and she did a very good job for the county. So it's not at all looking back negatively, it's looking forward, what are some opportunities, just so I'm clear.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Matt?
If you'll pardon a 90-second rant here, I think in general the centralized federal government level solutions to housing and economic issues are a bad idea from a theoretical economics perspective and from a pragmatic, practical perspective. However, looking at this, knowing the bureaucracy that is the Department of Housing and Urban Development, that this consolidation leads to some additional efficiencies in that, I think is a step in the right direction in a bad system that I have no power to change. So that's my 90-second rant.
Okay, like it?
That's a rant?
Okay, any other questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item 5, Daryl, please.
This is a request to recommend to the board to adopt a resolution authorizing the issuance of Kent County Capital Improvement Bonds, Series 2016, not to exceed $25.5 million, which are intended to finance the construction of a juvenile detention center, replacement of the kitchen and new entryway at the correctional facility, and build-out of the courthouse to install related furniture, fixtures, and equipment for these facilities. On October 22nd, the Board of Commissioners adopted a resolution authorizing the publication of a notice of intent to issue bonds to provide funding necessary for the projects related to the Juvenile Detention Center, the Correctional Facility, and Courthouse, and to acquire and install related furniture, fixtures, and equipment. The county did determine subsequently that upon issuance of bonds, it has sufficient funds to use capital improvement dollars to fund the courthouse improvements. The proposed resolution will authorize a bond issuance in the amount not to exceed $25.5 million, a pledge of limited full faith and credit on the new bond, form of the bonds, granting of authority to various county officials to authorize execution and delivery of the bonds, and grant authority to the administrator controller to approve an official statement. The debt service requirements of this bond issuance will be incorporated into the Correction Detention Fund budgets beginning December 1st, 2016, and the first year principal interest requirements included in the fiscal year 2017 budget. All of the projects have been structured with a 20-year level debt service payment schedule. Depending on market conditions, this bond sale will be a negotiated one with a planned closing date no later than October 5th, 2016.
Okay. Question or motion to approve?
I'll move that.
Support? Support. Support. Questions? Comments? 90 seconds, that's all.
On this particular issue, I'm going to be voting no. Looking at the cost, the $8.4 million cost of bonds over that 20-year period. So just thinking about the I guess, gravity of this decision. So my oldest is a third grader, and six kids total. Within the term of this bond, they'll all be grown out of college, and I'll probably have grandchildren by the time this is concluded. And that $8.4 million in cost, that's over $1,000 a day in cost, which is a substantial amount of money to finance this. So $1,000 each and every day until I'm Grandpa Coleman seems like a very significant decision. I think I appreciated the memo you provided in terms of trying to avoid dipping that fund balance so low we put ourselves in a difficult situation. I wish there was additional alternatives. I don't know what those would be, reducing the potential cost of the new facilities, other creative ways to manage the cash flow. But just given that $1,000 a day for 20 years, just purely in interest and other expense costs on these bonds, I'm going to be voting no.
Okay, Diane?
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to be voting yes, and the support on this is very simply that these projects are really in the best interest of our community, of our constituents, and it is not at all uncommon for these projects to be funded in this way. And we have been planning for this, we had been discussing this, and I think these actually are long overdue, and I'm really glad that we're now going ahead and potentially moving forward with it. So my vote will be yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I will also plan to vote yes on this. I have toured the juvenile facility. I see there's a great need for safety and security there to protect the children there and also the employees. It's definitely a facility that needs a lot of attention. So I look forward to see the changes once this is approved.
Okay, thank you. Roger?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to hold off on my vote until we vote, but I think I understand your logic, but we have a $350 million budget here.
Total budget.
Total, that's $1 million a day that we spend. So I think I understand what you're saying, but I can't get my head around what you're saying. I don't think I could sleep at night with your logic if knowing that we spend $1 million a day here. So I think I get it, but this is just one of the, it's a mandated service. I agree that this, if you have toured this facility needs to be renovated, so. And I'll hold off on my vote until we vote.
Okay, thank you. David?
Thank you, Chair. To me, this decision is a bit like our work session in the sense that I agree with Commissioner Jones and Breavy that these projects absolutely have to get done. That way overdue, we have to do this work. And related to the memo about are we borrowing money or not, people would facetiously say, why does the county worry about its AAA bond rating because it doesn't borrow money? Well, now we're borrowing money. And so I would like to have those conversations before we borrow more money, because the whole 82 Ionia, new building potentially, that is before us. So before those bonds come to us, because my assumption is there'll also be a recommendation to bond that we have that fuller conversation to review our policies and either endorse fully or endorse with some changes about, you know, do we do everything we can to keep our AAA, and what does that mean? And so here, it looks like A, the projects have to be done, and B, it's in line with our policies. So I'll wait for my vote too.
Stan?
Thank you, Chair. I guess people have heard me talk before. I'm not a big fan, not so much what it costs to pay a bond back, but what it costs to issue it. But I think the staff has done a great job showing the need, and the need is there. And I would hope with anything that we spend money on that the staff is continuing looking at ways of saving and providing the best value for taxpayers.
Harold?
Thank you, Chair Vandermolen. I too shared the concerns that Commissioner Ponstein had said before, the costs of doing it. Understand the $1,000 a day, that's a lot of cookie dough, I'll tell you. But I lived with a fine lady for 58 years who a few years ago chaired the Citizens Advisory Council up there at the juvenile. And she was saying then that place needs work. And so to keep my happy home, I'm going to support this.
That was at 56 years ago. Give me the time.
Oh, yeah.
She's a saint.
Okay, all those things being said, I guess the question I need to ask is, are these bonds going to be callable? And is there a balloon at the end of them? Is it the interest payments?
We're looking at a straight line versus, I think the first year is interest only, if I'm not mistaken. But they are callable, or will be callable, but that doesn't necessarily mean they have to be callable.
Exactly, okay. But it's at our option?
Yes.
Okay.
They're not backloaded, right?
No.
So when they're bid out, is the option going to be what it would cost for a callable bond versus a non-callable?
It will allow the option to have the bonds callable at some date certain. Normally it's 10 years after bonds are issued. But if the interest rates are not good, or if we don't meet what our standard has been of at least 5% present value savings, we're not obligated to call them. But we could call them anytime after that.
So it's always been my understanding with bonds is that the rates for a non-callable and a callable are different, and one may benefit you. I guess my question is, are we going to bid it to show both that one is this price and one is that?
Well, that one I'm going to refer to either bond counsel or Steve Duarte on. The question is, there's a difference between the rate of a callable versus a non-callable, and what that difference might be. And are we going to get quotes for both?
Good morning. Dick Went from Dickinson.
Morning, Dick.
Those of you that I don't, sorry, bring me up, okay. The answer to the question is, yes, there is a difference in the interest rate between a callable and a non-callable bond. A callable bond, the interest rate is normally higher the closer to the time you get the issuance of the bonds are callable.
So in the industry today, traditionally, the bonds are not callable for 10 years, and then after 10 years are callable at par without a premium. But in answer to your question, Commissioner, the underwriter who will underwrite these bonds will look at all alternatives and then recommend to the county that alternative which produces the best interest rate. And one other thing to keep in mind without getting too complicated here, even though bonds are not callable in the first 10 years, there is a way in which you can what's called advance refund those bonds and put money aside in an account and use that money to call the bonds when they're first callable. That option is also always available. Usually it is not advantageous because of the investment earnings that you would earn in those restricted account would be less than what you could earn without that restriction. But that option is also available.
I think part of my concern is that, I mean, you go back 20 years when interest rates were all over the place, one could argue, well, we want that option because we don't see when interest rates were 10%, 9%, that it would go much higher, it'd probably go lower. And I'm thinking in the age that we are in now, we pretty much have a 0% Fed rate. I mean, how much lower do we think it's going to go, or can it go? And why would we then make it a callable bond if we may get a better interest rate on a non-callable bond?
It's a good point because interest rates are and continue to be near or at all-time lows, so that would be something that would be analyzed. Usually what they'll tell you in the industry is if it's non-callable for 10 years, there's no difference in interest rate. So you would get the same interest rate with a callable bond after 10 years and a 20-year bond non-callable. That's usually what the result is because the investor is interested in holding its money for a 10-year period of time and not beyond the 10-year period of time.
Yep. And I can, appreciate that, but my rant's always been is that when they are called then, the fees that are charged by these people are just outrageous. And I think these bonds are set up for that just as a pipeline of money, constantly calling bonds out and reissuing them, charging more fees. And in the end, that's a direct cost to taxpayers. And that's always been, my concern on those callable bonds. So, but I appreciate your comments.
Okay, thank you. So this is a discussion we need to have, and so everybody understands just exactly what we're doing. And I assume, Darrell, when we get to that point where we have to approve them, that those options will be laid out to us with a recommendation.
Well, this actually authorizes staff to issue bonds anytime between now and October, but we would report back on what we would do.
I think we should do that.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, we got a motion to approve. Any further questions? Matt?
Just an additional clarification on the projects in particular. I support the objectives of these projects, and it's just the debt aspect of it that I'm concerned about. And as you said, Commissioner Morgan, to renovate the existing building, that's not the option we're looking at. We're looking at building a brand new facility. So I just wish there was additional cheaper options to explore. And just one additional comment, kind of a technicality thing. The beginning of the bond, the know all men language, that's kind of archaic and, in my opinion, sexist. Do we have to keep that language in the bond?
That's an interesting question.
No.
No.
Okay. There you go. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 6, Darrell.
Okay, this is a request to recommend to the board to approve amendments to the Health Department fee schedule. The Public Health Law Code allows a local government to fix and require payment of fees for services authorized or required to be performed by local health departments. Set fees should be no more than the reasonable cost of providing the service. The health department has attempted to create a fair and equitable fee schedule that captures the cost of services provided in it and is consistent with surrounding counties. As a result, the health department is recommending changes to 21 existing fees, the establishment of 29 new fees, and the elimination of 9 fees with an effective date of March 1st, 2016. All of the recommendations are detailed in the attachments to this action request. A public notice was placed in the Grand Rapids Press, sent to the county clerk's office, and posted on Access Kent to announce new fees and the public hearing date. The public hearing was held on September 21, 2015. No public comment was received. The proposed fee changes were presented to the county's Community Health Advisory Committee in August of 15, and there was unanimous support for these changes. The proposed fee changes have no financial impact on the Health Department's 2016 budget. The additional $26,000 in revenue generated from the new lab water test fee was budgeted in the 2016 budget and was used to offset the cost of the purchase of new water testing equipment.
Need a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support?
Support.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Dan?
I'm going to make the assumption when we review fees, staff takes into account what, if any, effects the fee increases would have. Were there any part of the fee areas where there's concern that by raising the rate, it may then have a detriment of people? And that's just a general question. I'm
Thank you, Adam.
not singling out one.
Okay. Yeah, there is consideration of that. And so, what went behind this proposed revision was after last year's fee package, we did go back to the community and our staff and the Community Health Advisory Committee to hear how we could continue to improve it. And what we learned was there are areas where we think that by decreasing the burden of cost on our small business, especially the push carts, the temporary establishments, some of those small operations, and increasing the cost burden to those establishments that are chronically in non-compliance, where we find that we're spending a disproportionate amount of our time, that we could shift basically revenue from one to the other in order to move that burden from those who are in compliant, who are just trying to run a business, to those who are consuming a lot of our time.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Roger?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is just to cover our cost, right, Adam? It's not to create a slush fund for Adam to go on vacation or anything like that. Right?
I don't think there's any such thing. So,
Yeah.
this is not a revenue package. It's revenue neutral. I think there's $100 difference between our current budget ultimately and what's proposed here. So it's revenue neutral. It's just meant to improve customer service for the community and to shift the cost of our service around a little bit.
How much of a lead time did the businesses and community have to be aware of the fees and to react to them? Like, you had a public hearing and nobody showed up. Was there enough lead time given to those folks? So
there was a 30-day lead time before the hearing, but most of these fees affect our food industry, and we have a food council where we have representatives from the industry, and they were actually involved in helping to draft this. So.
Okay, Diane?
Thank you, Chair. Adam, I know that when the changes were made a number of years ago, I had constituents call me about some challenges with the impact on not-for-profits. Does this correct that?
It does. What Commissioner Jones is referring to is in particular, if there was a nonprofit event, say like a chili cook-off, where you have a number of establishments or a number of different vendor booths, under the former structure, each of those booths would need to be independently licensed. Under this new structure, there's one umbrella fee, which is less than the old fee, and then each of those booths at nonprofit has a $10 license instead of, I think it was a $50 license. So it's significantly better system for those sorts of nonprofit fundraising events.
And I just want to follow up that I wanted to really commend Adam for this particular area because it's really important to all of our communities. And we were even active in getting a person from the local community that had the challenge onto the committee. Was it the committee that helped decide this too, Adam?
Yes, it was.
Yes. There are moments where government works. And my point is, this is one of those examples. We had something in place, it needed some adjustment, we went through the process, and now we're at the point where the correction's being made. And I will say in the interim, adjustments were made. Because to Adam's credit, when things have challenges or issues, he's able to look at an individual piece and recognize we need to be flexible and adaptable. And it's just, I cannot rave enough about how great your department is, how well it runs, and the processes you have in place. So thank you.
Oh, thank you,
Thank you, Diane. Dave?
Yeah, of course, you get credit as well. I mean, not only the awesome work you do, but when you lead the proposed fee adjustments with a reduction in the cost of owning a puppy, you know, how can we not vote yes? However, my question is that last bullet point where I get that there's no impact, but it sounds like the revenue that we're going to approve was already factored into the budget. I mean, it didn't necessarily, well, did it assume we were going to approve the fees because did you buy the equipment? So it's just a very small cart and a horse with.
Small horse or a small cart?
Both.
Oh.
So
Yeah, and so to be honest, I'm going to have to revisit the budget because I'm not sure. This is reading here as though it's a change to our budget. I think that it is a change to our budget. I think it was just in the justification in our comments. We did budget for the equipment with the assumption that we were going to be doing this because there was a business need for it. I don't think we accounted for the revenue from those fees, but I think we included it as a comment in our justification. But point well taken, and I'll check on that.
all right, thank you.
Anyone else? You know, I want to kind of join in with Diane. You know, sometimes government gets a reputation of being so bureaucratic that they can't be nimble or they can't do things that are right. Sometimes some of the stuff we do just doesn't make sense, and some of this here indicates that we're able to say, okay, yeah, this really doesn't make sense. We're spending all this time with this group and very little time with this group. Why should this group pay a penalty? So anyway, we just need to, if you put on your desk, does this make sense? That'd be a good thing to. So having said that, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, thank you. That gets us to miscellaneous. Does there anyone have any miscellaneous? With that, we're adjourned. Thank you.
I am Kent County. I am Kent County.
I am Kent County.
We are 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 Kent County.
Peya, Kent County. Ami, Kent County.
Somos, Kent County.
Mas Ira, Kent County.
We are Kent County.
We are Kent County.
We are Kent County. Oh yeah.